Have you ever stopped to think that, is there such a high level of excellence that makes people think it can only be the work of a god? Although it is rare for artisans themselves to be literally called gods, divine quality of his works and the sacred character of their craft was extremely common and recognized in various cultures. Nowadays, the scenario is different. There are people who deliver such excellent work that many think that person isn't human, that they're a robot, especially in the age of artificial intelligence we live in today. Many people judge others when they see work that stands out from the norm and say, "Wow, that's not normal." However, there is an ancient concept born in Japan that produces exactly this kind of astonishing excellence. They call it Shokunin Katagi, the spirit of the craftsman. And when you understand how it works, you will never again accept mediocrity in your life. But there's a catch. This concept teaches you to strive for excellence in one thing at a time, and excellence takes years to achieve. Don't think you can achieve excellence in days or months. It's an arduous journey, full of pain and sacrifice, but one that will be worth it in the end. But before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. What area of your life do you want to achieve excellence in? Work, studies, training? Comment below. And very soon, I'll have some news for you who follow me and enjoy my videos. Stay tuned. Now back to the video. Chapter 1. The Orphan Boy Interior of Japan. Feudal period. A small village surrounded by mountains. In this village there was a forge workshop, and in this workshop a 16-year-old boy was looking at a cold anvil. His name doesn't matter. He never became famous, but what he did has resonated for centuries. 3 weeks earlier his father had died. Fever, quickly. No time to teach his son the secrets that had been passed down through generations, secrets of how to transform ordinary metal into perfect katanas. The boy had 3 younger siblings, a sick mother, no money, no food, and an empty workshop that hadn't produced swords for weeks. He had 2 choices: close the workshop, sell the tools, take any job, or try to continue the legacy alone, without a master, without experience, without even knowing where to begin. Most people would have chosen the easy way out, but this boy had something different inside him, something he didn't yet understand, something the Japanese call Shokunin Katagi. Searching the workshop one night, he found a hidden box. Inside, yellowed parchments, his father's handwriting, ancient forging techniques written by hand, drawings, temperatures, hammer angles, cooling time. He picked up the first scroll and began to read. He didn't understand half of it. The instructions were complex, full of technical terms his father had never explained. But there was something there. A possibility. A chance. That night, he made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't just going to try to make swords, he was going to become a blacksmith. The difference may seem small, but it's gigantic. Trying is reversible. Being is irreversible. He wrote on his father's parchment, "I am a blacksmith, I will forge perfect katanas, I will honor this lineage." He signed it and placed the scroll on the family altar. It wasn't a promise, it was a declaration of identity. And in Japanese culture at the time, breaking that meant dishonor. An anthropologist from Kyoto University, who has studied samurai culture for years, explains, "In feudal Japan, your word wasn't just your reputation, it was your existence. A man who broke his word ceased to exist socially. This cultural pressure created an unbreakable commitment." The next day, 4 a.m., he lit the furnace, he grabbed a metal bar, he began. The first sword was a complete disaster. The metal cracked, the edge was bent, hours of work wasted. Second attempt, even worse. The blade broke in half when he tried to temper it. Third, fourth, fifth attempt. All failed a whole week, not a single sellable sword. The family was eating only rice and the occasional fish he caught. This is where many would have given up. This is where any normal person would look at the situation and think, this isn't going to work. I don't have the talent for this. I'd better look for another way. But the boy didn't think that way, because he had understood something fundamental about Shokunin Katagi that most people never understand. It wasn't about achieving quick success. It was about caring deeply about each attempt. Chapter 2. The Birth of the Spirit. He stopped trying to make swords quickly. He began to study each flaw as if it were a puzzle. Why did the metal crack? Wrong temperature. He wrote it down. He tested different temperatures. He observed the color of the metal when heated. Light red, dark red, orange, yellow. Each color meant something. Why was the wire crooked? The angle of the hammer. He practiced the hammer blow in the air 1,000 times before touching the metal again. He observed how the weight of the hammer fell, how his wrist needed to rotate, how his shoulder needed to be aligned. He started waking up at 3 a.m., not because someone told him to, but because he couldn't sleep thinking about what he had done wrong the day before. The neighbors could hear the anvil ringing before sunrise every single day, without exception. Rain, cold, illness, the anvil would ring. People started talking. That kid's gone crazy. He should accept that he doesn't have his father's gift. Perfect. Each comment became fuel. 6th week. He was testing a cooling technique for the 100th time, immersing hot metal in cold water to harden the blade. But every time he did it, the blade cracked. The scrolls said, "Dip when the metal is the color of the setting sun." But what did that mean exactly? Orange, red, light yellow, red, light. He spent 3 whole days just heating metal and observing the colors. He didn't try to make swords, he just observed. He studied, he felt. And on the 4th day, it happened. He saw it, not with his eyes, with something deeper. He felt when the metal was at the exact point. It wasn't about following instructions, it was about connecting with the material. He plunged the metal into the water. The sound was different, the steam rose differently, and when he pulled it out of the water, the blade was perfect. No cracks, smooth, strong. He had discovered the first secret of Shokunin Katagi. You don't master the technique, you become one with it. But here begins the part that nobody tells you about, the scary part. Because a perfect sword wasn't enough. He needed to make perfect swords every time, every single day, without fail, and that required something most people aren't willing to give. From that sword, he created a ritual, not a habit, a ritual. Every day at precisely 3:30 in the morning, he would wake up. No negotiation. It didn't matter if he was tired, sick, or cold. The time was sacred. First thing, he cleaned the workshop. Every tool in its proper place, every corner swept. Why? Because a chaotic space creates chaotic work. A sacred space creates sacred work. Second thing, he lit the furnace, always with the same amount of charcoal, always in the same pattern, because variation creates unpredictability, and unpredictability is the enemy of perfection. Third thing, he would spend 30 minutes just watching the fire, meditating on the day's work, connecting his mind with what was to come. Only after that would he play the metal. People thought it was crazy. Why do you spend so much time preparing? You could be producing more swords, earning more money. But he understood something they didn't. Speed is the enemy of excellence. Quantity is the enemy of quality. He wasn't trying to make a lot of swords. He was trying to make each sword as if it were the last sword he would ever make. A Japanese master blacksmith with 40 years of experience, maintaining traditional techniques to this day, says, "When you rush the work, you insult the material. The metal knows when you don't care. The sword knows when it was made in a hurry, and it will break when the samurai needs it most." 3 months later, he was already able to make good swords, sellable ones. The local samurai started buying them. The family was eating well again, and this is where most people stop. It's good enough, it's already working, why try harder? But the boy didn't stop, because there was something burning inside him that wouldn't accept good enough. He began to notice details that no one else saw. The exact curvature of the blade, the pattern of the folded steel, the perfect balance between weight and handling, the finish of the handle. Each sword took not days, but weeks. He tested, adjusted, and retested it. A samurai once complained, "Why does it take so long? The blacksmith in the neighboring village can do it in 3 days." His response was simple. Then buy from him. But when his sword breaks in battle and you die, don't complain to me. The samurai bought the sword, and he never bought from another blacksmith again. It's important for me to explain something here. The pursuit of excellence doesn't mean neglecting your health, your family, and the things that are important to you. Understand also that seeking excellence doesn't mean being a perfectionist in everything. Nobody is perfect in literally everything. Perfectionism holds you back. The pursuit of excellence makes you understand that to become a master, you need to start by being a learner. The central point of this video is, be excellent in what is important. Be excellent in your ikigai. Chapter 3. The Complete Transformation. 1.5 hours after the beginning. An important samurai arrived in the village. Not just any samurai, a commander, someone who had seen hundreds of swords, someone whose life depended on the quality of the blade. He had heard of the young blacksmith, but he was skeptical. A boy who learned on his own? It's impossible that he's as good as they say. He entered the workshop unannounced, 4 a.m., and he saw something that shocked him. The boy was polishing a blade, not the part that would be visible, the inner part of the fitting, the part that no one would ever see. And he was polishing it as if it were the most important part of the sword. The commander asked, "Why are you wasting time polishing a part that no one will see?" The boy's answer defined what Shokunin Katagi is. Because I see, and if I know it's imperfect, I can't deliver. It doesn't matter if you see it or not. I know. The commander fell silent. Then he smiled. I want you to forge my sword, and I don't want you to rush anything. Do it the right way. 3 months. That's how long it took him to make that sword. He wasn't working. He was creating an extension of the commander's soul. Each hammer blow was a meditation. Each bend of the steel was a prayer. Each polishing was an act of love. When it was finished, the sword was not merely functional, it was art. The balance was so perfect that it floated in the hand. The edge was so sharp it could cut silk in mid-air. The pattern of the steel looked like waves frozen in time. The commander held the sword, and he was moved, because he felt something in the blade that he had never felt before. He felt the soul of the blacksmith. He felt every hour of dedication, every perfect detail. And he said something that would change the boy's life forever. This sword isn't just mine, this sword is you, and I'm going to take you into battle with me. News spread like wildfire. Within 6 months, samurai from distant regions began making pilgrimages to that village, not to buy swords, to commission masterpieces, and each one waited for months, because everyone knew this blacksmith didn't make swords, he created legacies. But here's what nobody tells you about excellence. When you reach that level, when you become unbreakable in your pursuit of perfection, something changes. Not just in your work, in you. You stop being someone who does things, and you become someone who embodies excellence. It's not what you do, it's who you are. Chapter 4. The Pillars of Shokunin Katagi. Let's break this down, because this isn't just an inspiring story. It's a manual on how to transform yourself into someone unbeatable. First principle, an irreversible commitment to quality. The blacksmith didn't make swords that were good enough. He made perfect swords, even in the details that no one would see. Because the question wasn't, will anyone notice? The question was, is this right? When you have Shokunin Katagi, you don't work to impress others. You work because you can't deliver something bad. You work because mediocrity physically hurts you. Think about it now. How many times this week did you deliver something so-so? How many times did you take a shortcut because it doesn't matter? How many times did you do 80% when you could have done 100%? Every time you do that, you train your brain to accept mediocrity. And over time, you become a mediocre person, not because you lack ability, but because you chose to accept less. Second principle, full responsibility for the outcome. When a blacksmith's sword broke, he didn't blame the metal. He didn't blame the weather. He didn't blame the lack of a master. He admitted, I made a mistake, and I'm going to fix it. That's power. Because when you take full responsibility, you also take full control. Mediocre people look for excuses. Shokunin look for solutions. Mediocre people say, "It's not my fault." Shokunin say, "It's my responsibility to fix it." And here's the trick. The more responsibility you take, the more power you have, because you stop depending on external factors and start depending only on yourself. An organizational psychologist who has studied professional excellence for years discovered the number one characteristic that separates the top 1% in any field is not talent, not IQ, not luck. It's what we call internal locus of control, the belief that results depend on your actions, not external factors. Third principle, eternal humility. Even after becoming the best blacksmith in the region, the boy continued studying the scrolls. He continued testing. He continued seeking the next level. Because a true shokunin never says, "I already know everything." The more he learns, the more he realizes how much he doesn't know. This is liberating, because it means you never need to be perfect today. You only need to be better than you were yesterday. The ego says, "I am already good enough." The Shokunin Katagi says, "I can be better." Ego paralyzes you. Shokunin liberates you. Fourth principle, sacred process over result. The blacksmith wasn't obsessed with selling swords. He was obsessed with every hammer blow, every second of the process, because he understood the quality of the result is a direct reflection of the quality of the process. When you have Shokunin Katagi, the process is not a means to an end. The process is the end. Every step is treated as sacred. Every movement matters. And when you do that, something magical happens. The results come naturally, not because you're focused on them, but because you're focused on doing each part so well that the extraordinary result is inevitable. Chapter 5. Application in your life. Now you might be thinking, "Okay, but I don't forge swords. How does this apply to me?" And the answer will surprise you. Shokunin Katagi applies to everything, literally everything. Are you a programmer? Then treat each line of code as if it were a hammer blow with a katana. Don't write code that works. Write elegant, clean, perfect code, even in the parts that nobody will read, because you will read them, and you know how. Are you a designer? Then treat every pixel as sacred. Don't deliver good enough. Deliver art, even in the details, because excellence lies in the details that no one consciously notices, but everyone feels. Do you work in customer service? Then treat every customer as if they were the most important one, not because your boss is watching, but because it's the right thing to do. Shokunin Katagi isn't about what you do, it's about how you do it. It's about caring. But I want to point out something else here. Understand that before reaching excellence, you will make mistakes. Just like in the story I told you today, before the blacksmith delivered works of art, he forged several katanas that were useless. So learn to respect the process, understand that making mistakes is part of the process, understand that you improve on the battlefield, you become excellent by combining practice with theory. Most importantly, stay calm, my friend, as I said. This is a journey, you are evolving, you are on the right path. Understand that the most important thing is not the speed at which you are going, the most important thing is that you don't stop. But here's the trick. You can't have Shokunin Katagi with just intention. You need structure. The blacksmith didn't wake up whenever he felt like it. He woke up at 3:30 a.m. religiously. The time was non-negotiable. You need the same. Choose a time for your most important work. Not whenever you feel like it. Not when you feel inspired. A fixed time. Sacred. Non-negotiable. Why? Because every time you negotiate your schedule, you expend mental energy. Energy that should be spent on work. Fixed hours eliminate negotiation. Fixed hours create automaticity. You don't need to wake up at 3:30, but set a fixed time for yourself. Furthermore, the blacksmith had a preparation ritual. Cleaning, lighting, meditating, the same every day. You need the same. Before starting your most important work, create a ritual. Even if it's simple. Coffee, specific music, 5 minutes of breathing. Always the same. Because the ritual signals to your brain, now is the time for excellence. And here's the part that will separate you from the 99%. The blacksmith forged every day without exception. Sick, tired, discouraged, the anvil kept ringing. Why? Because he understood. A gap destroys momentum. A gap opens space for mediocrity to return. You don't need to do 100% every day, but you do need to do something every day. No gaps. A day you're exhausted, do 20% of your best, but do it. A day you're traveling, do 30%, but do it. A day you're sick, do 10%, but do it. His excellence is equal. A behavioral neuroscience researcher who studies habit formation explains, absolute consistency, even at reduced intensity, keeps neural circuits active. A gap of just 3 days begins to degrade the neural pattern. You're not just breaking a habit, you're literally dismantling the brain structure you've built. But don't worry, if something really unexpected happened and you couldn't even do 10% on that specific day, just get back to normal the next day. No guilt, no worries. Chapter 6. The Final Transformation, 20 years later. The young blacksmith was no longer young, but his hands were still hammering on the anvil every day at 3:30 in the morning. He had trained his children, but he didn't teach them techniques first. He taught them spirit first. Technique without spirit creates empty objects. Spirit with technique creates legacies. Their children learned, we don't make swords. We create extensions of the soul of those who will wield them. Every detail matters. Every second matters. Because the work isn't about us. It's about the person who will depend on it. And that family's workshop continued for generations. Never the biggest, never the fastest, but always the best. Because Shokunin Katagi isn't about being first. It's about being irreproachable. And here's what will happen when you start living like this. People will find you strange. Why do you care so much? Why don't you relax? Why are you so obsessive? But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it because you've discovered the secret. Excellence isn't about impressing others. It's about doing your best even when no one is watching. When you possess true Shokunin Katagi, delivering something bad hurts physically. Not because someone will judge you, but because you know it wasn't your best. And when you reach that point, when that transformation is complete, something extraordinary happens. You stop competing with others, because you're only competing with yesterday's version of yourself. You stop worrying about recognition, because you have something more valuable, unwavering self-respect. You stop needing motivation, because you've become someone who simply can't do it any other way. The question remains, are you ready to pursue that level of excellence? Because Shokunin Katagi isn't a hack. It's not a quick technique. It's an identity transformation that needs time to complete. It's up to you to decide that mediocrity is no longer acceptable. It's about treating each task, each project, each moment as something truly important. The young blacksmith had no master. He had no money, he had no advantages, but he had Shokunin Katagi, and that was enough to transform him from an orphaned boy into a master whose work transcended generations. You have the same potential, the same choice. The difference will be, will you choose the easy path of mediocrity, or will you choose the difficult path of excellence? Because there is no middle ground. You're either going up or going down. You are either getting better or getting worse. You are either becoming a Shokunin or you are becoming just another one. And when you choose the path of excellence, when you truly embrace Shokunin Katagi, people will judge you, that's normal. And you will smile, because you have finally become who you were always meant to be. If this video helped you better understand excellence, I invite you again to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss future content. Remember, excellence is not an act, it's a habit, and habits begin with a choice. Now, if you've watched this far, thank you very much for your attention. Be present, walk with honor, follow the path. Until the next video.